Hi everybody, it's Imogen. Welcome back to Colouring Kid. Today I'm going to be doing another background tutorial. This time it's going to be chalk pastel. You'll have to excuse me before I get going. I've got a cold. I got it a couple of days ago and it's really irritating me, so if I sound a bit muffled, that's why. And yeah, of course, as everyone says now, this is aimed at adults. It's an adult colouring channel over 13. So I'm going to be showing you 4 different types of things that you can do. There's probably a lot more that you can do with chalk pastel, but I thought I would just do the things that I do. So the first one is cotton wool. So that's just normal pastel background but using a cotton wool ball or a pad. I just use the small balls. I'll show you one in a minute. I'll show you one now. So these, just because I find they're softer and a lot easier to use, but the pads work just as well. Then there's the cotton buds, and I'm going to be showing you something that I do. Again, these are just cotton buds, though you might also call them Q-tips. And they're really good for smaller areas, so that's why I've drawn a flower here to kind of demonstrate it. And if you want to do circles and stuff. Then there's the blending of 2 colours, so that's just combining 2 colours into a seamless blend for background. So you might want to do a sunset and do pink to yellow or something like that. And then the final one is circles, which you do by rubbing out circles from your pastel, and I use a Derwent battery eraser. You can use a different eraser, like maybe one of the Perfection Faber-Castell rubbers, or just a big normal rubber if you're very careful. You could use the corner of a rubber if you want to. So I'm going to just show you the pastels that I use. Just get them out of my drawer. Okay, I'm just going to use these ones. I've got these ones which my mum actually gave me, that were from my granny, and she used them. And so they're quite old and some of them are cracked, but these are the Rembrandt soft pastels. And they have, oh sorry, I just moved the camera. These have been well loved. Some of them have slightly come out of their place, but I've used quite a few of the colours a lot, and these were the first ones that I had. Some of the colours are still really intense though, and I love them, put it that way. But probably these ones are more well known to use. So these are just, they're either called Mungio, well these are the Mungio ones, I think. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Or just any 64 sets. There are lots that people have. There's quite a few different brands, but they're all the same principle. So these ones are half sticks. They're mini ones. I did do a swatch chart, but it's probably not very accurate anymore because they've all smudged. But these are the colours. So there's some lovely varieties of pastel colours, and there's a few neons which are really nice. So I'm probably going to show you with, oh dear, this is not going well, is it? There we go. I'm probably going to show you with the purples, just because I think it's easier to do, and plus there's a really nice darker purple here. So I'm just going to get started. So you can grab any pastel you like, it doesn't really matter. And I'm first going to be showing you with the cotton wool ball. Now, there are 2 ways that you can do this, how you can apply the colour. So the first one is by just getting the pastel, rubbing the cotton wool ball onto it, and then just applying it. Now I've done that quite lightly, you might not be able to see. I'm just going to move this across a bit, it's easier for me to put it down. There we go, so that's one way. The other way is by scraping. You can either use a knife or some scissors to just get the blade and scrape a bit off and then rub it in. Now, both ways work well. The thing I find with the second one, where you're putting the shavings on, is that sometimes if you've got too many shavings, they just go everywhere, and you might have to end up blowing a bit off, and also the colour isn't as deep. Whereas with the one where you're just physically applying it, you can build up the colour. Now it does depend, as I mentioned before, in a couple of other videos I think, the fact that if the tooth isn't that big, if you've got smooth paper, you're not going to be able to get that many layers of pastel on, and that limits the concentration of the colour, so it might not be as dense. You might not be able to get that good depth of colour, so you kind of want to go with one that's got a bit of tooth so that you can work with it. But really, any paper, if you know, even if you just want a subtle background, it should be okay. Okay, so now I'm going to show you with the cotton buds. Now I do a few different things. Either if you want a really small background, you can do the exact same thing that I just did. Pick up the colour like that on from the chalk, and then just go in and do it. Now this will obviously take a lot longer, and you wouldn't want to use this if you were doing a massive background. But if you want to get a good depth of colour and you're also looking to do really small areas, then it's perfect. And you can always go in with a rubber and rub out if you've gone over any of the lines. So that's the sort of thing you can do with that. Alternatively, a really nice thing I like to do is if you grab a pencil extender. Now this one is one that fits Prismacolors. This is the smaller Derwent one of the two. Oops, I'm just going to turn this around. You can actually fit 3 cotton buds into one and just play around with them a bit until they're even in height, and you can just push them down like that, twist it back up, and then you have a kind of blending pencil. Now this can kind of be instead of a blending stump if you want. I mean, you can use a blending stump to apply pastel, but I prefer to use them to blend colour pencil. But again, you can do the exact same thing. Kind of just get a bit on like that. And play with it a bit. Now, with any of these, you will kind of just have to play around with what works best for you. But I find that mainly I will use just applying it straight from the pastel, and I tend to use I even do this technique for blending pencil. You know, if I'm doing quite a large area and I don't want to use a blending stump, I will use this, but this works well as well if you're doing a slightly bigger background. Okay, now I'm going to show you blending 2 colours. So I've got this purple already, and then I'm going to try it with a pink. So the exact same technique. I'm going to show you with the first technique that I showed you, which is applying straight from the cotton ball. Now I'm going to grab another one because we're going to use another plain one for the pink. And what you want to do is start with the purple. And make sure that the colour you're applying is even. You don't want a really dark area or a random line somewhere. So I'm going to do about 3 lots. Okay, and once you've done that, you can then take the clean one and just kind of rub in that middle section to try and drag the colour down a bit, so it's going to be slightly easier for the colours to merge. Now I've got a tiny bit of purple on this, and that will be great to put the pink onto, just so that there's a tiny bit of that colour so they're easier to blend. So then you're going to take the one that you just used and do the same thing with the pink, and start at the bottom here lightly. And again, the bottom here lightly. and then you're going to slowly just kind of merge them all together. Kind of just merge around. Now if there's any places where you think you need a bit more colour, like this middle bit for example, I think needs a little bit more, then you can do so. And if you want it to be more of a sunsetty type thing where you've got the darker bit at the top, you can go in with a bit more purple. But you know, there's going to come a point where you can't add more colour just because of the nature of the paper, and you've built up the layers. And going in with a bit more pink, and yeah, it's just going to become quite slippery and not really work anymore. Now I've just ended up with loads of pastel prints. That's the only thing with this, it's very messy. Once you've done a picture you can use a fixative, or you kind of, I think lots of people say they do the background first and then they do all the colour pencil or whatever they're using. I tend to do the backgrounds last if I'm doing pastel, and I don't use a fixative. Some people do, but some people alternatively will put a piece of paper in between their book with the pastel, just so that it doesn't go onto the other page. I haven't really had that many problems with it in the past, maybe once or twice, but it's not really been an issue. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is the circles, the rubbing out. Now these are pretty dirty now, but it doesn't matter, we can carry on using that purple one. So you're going to do the exact same thing that I showed you in the first tutorial or section. Now I got quite a bit of colour there, so all you're doing is applying it straight from the thing. Now this is quite a small rubber, which is why it's perfect for this sort of thing. So if you want to get bigger circles, you start on, and you want to go straight onto the pastel, you can go straight on and then just move it around slightly to get an even circular shape. You will have to take the rubbings out, but you can see how much of the colour is removed just by doing that. These are way more accurate in terms of getting rid of the colour than an ordinary rubber, because it just takes away so much of the colour. So you would kind of want to do a few of these big circles. This is what I do anyway. You can do some, you know, just big or just small if you want to. And I got this, I mean, I first saw it on quite a few channels. Colour and Chat with Sammy did some lovely things with this sort of background. So these are kind of the big ones, and then if you want to do small ones, you just don't move it around. You just place it and up. Place, up. So oh, well that one didn't work because the paper moved, but I can just reapply. Oh, sorry for the squeaky noise. I can kind of just put a bit of pastel back on there. There we go. But yeah, it's just, if you want smaller ones, you just don't move it. And if you want even smaller ones, you can kind of just put it on. The smaller ones I don't think are quite as effective because you can't see it as much. I tend to go for the bigger ones, or the slightly bigger ones. You can obviously do massive ones if you want. But again, you can kind of do whatever you want to do. The only thing I would say about these is just be careful that when you next go to rub something out, you don't have any of the pastel left. So before we finish, I'm just going to show you a few examples of where I have used pastel. The first one is from World of Flowers, and I did this a while ago, and this is an example of the dot background. This one. So I used the pastels on the outside of this ribbon, and then I just went in with the rubber, as I just showed you, and I put the dots on. I was very pleased with that one at the time. So as you can see, it does look quite effective, and you can make it look like snow as well. And then the other one is from Dream Reese. Now, the thing is with this, the paper is very smooth. So I really did have to push the tooth to get the colour down. But this is an example of where I've done a gradient of 2 purples, so slightly darker up here and lighter there, and then I went in with some white gel pen and put some dots on. So, you know, if you didn't want to use white gel pen, you can use the circle effect where you rub them out. That would have worked well as well. But there's really a lot of things you can do with pastel, and I think some people don't use them because they think they're messy, which they can be. They can be very messy, especially the darker colours as well. If you're doing a night scene or something, it might go over. But generally, I think they're a really good medium to get a background done quickly and effectively, and you can do a number of things with them, as I showed you. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that it helped you. I had lots of comments saying they found the pencil background really helpful, which is so kind. I mean, you know, maybe these things that I'm showing you you've seen before, but even if one person says that it's benefited them, you know, that makes me really happy, because I like being able to help with the tutorials. So I've got a few others that I will do. If you have any suggestions for other backgrounds, I'm probably just going to do one more video in this mini series. I was thinking, because I do quite a lot of watercolour things, I was maybe thinking of doing that, or gouache or something, or using watercolour or ink potents or something. I'm not really sure. I don't tend to use those mediums in my colouring books, but it's something that I do in my art. So, or if you have any other suggestions of things that I may have, please let me know. And yeah, I will see you in my next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.